Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on a little bell on the side, so once you have all the new video and news, you'll be the first one getting all the insights. Okay, now this video I'll like to discuss how you can break into the cipher of getting a subclass 1A9 visa now, which is the visa that has been commonly asked, and it's one of the hardest that you can actually get. Now, let's first to start with a little bit of history lesson. 1A9 visa is the first of ever. It was commonly used visa class for a lot of skilled migrants back in the old days. Now, as what the name says, it's an independent skilled migration visa, whereby all you require, you don't need any nominator, you don't need any state to actually nominate you or sponsor you at all. All you're required to do is yourself. Now, that's the best one. Because the best visa, if it's only require yourself to actually get it done without any other nomination, any other sponsorship, any other requirement, obviously it's the beauty, it's the best visa to actually access within. You get into permanent residency straight away. Wow, I wondered why this is so beautiful. Now, what happened to it? Now, back in about 2 years ago, obviously, the current government of Australia has actually shrink the number and decrease the number of this category into a certain percentage, where the required points nowadays become so high. Now let's talk about how you can actually break into that and how you can achieve those high points in order to get into subclass 1A9. So if you're in those category, you're not required to actually get any nomination from the state or perhaps any relative or friends. How can you achieve that? Let's get into it. Okay, now let's jump into the first page of this page has commonly been introduced by me because I just found it very, very useful. So what you need to do is you go to Google and you type in Home Affairs skill occupation list. You should be able to land yourself in this web page. Now this web page is very useful, and now in this video scenario we are focusing on the 1A9 visa. Obviously you're not here to click in here. I'm gonna go into that web page later, but utilizing this web page, all you're required to do is that you need to find out whether your occupation is actually in the 1A9 skill occupation list. That's obviously you need to find that out, otherwise we'll be all wasting our time. So all you need to do is you scroll down here, rather at the search engine, rather than typing whatever the whatever your skill occupation is, you go down here at this drop down list. All you need to do is click on it and then scroll down and tick 1A9, and then you go search. Here we go. That's all the occupations that is within 1A9 visa. So that is much easier for you to access with. However, there's a bulky numbers of pages going through, 5 pages to go through. Anyhow, that's where you can find all the 1A9 occupation in one place, and that is the easiest way that you can access. Obviously I've magnified the web page so I can need to scroll so much, but the other big thing that you are required to go before we go into counting all the points is that you need to go to invitation round. Now invitation round is where you can actually find out the current points that the Australian government had actually been invited with the 1A9 visas. So it's actually very, very important because then that's an indication how much points that you're required to actually achieve it. So rather than going through all these nitty gritty detail. Let's go into the most current, which we're still back in January. Looks like it. Okay, so what does it say? So 189, you're required. Can you see this? Okay, here you go. Okay, you're required to actually achieve minimum of 65 points. Now, bear in mind, because obviously we are still in the era of the pandemic. It's going on at the moment around the world. So previously we have noticed that the points has gone up to about 80 90 points. The 65 points nowadays is basically aiming at if you are onshore in Australia right now. So if you're in onshore Australia right now, that's the point that you require. Okay, and that's a beauty. I'll assume anybody who is still in Australia, you will need to lodge it straight away. So now I think they are inviting skilled migrants every, I think, 3 months or something like that, due to the issues of obviously the control, international travel control. As you can see here, other engineer profession, that's 95. So today I'm going to teach you how you actually get into those kind of high point mark, about 80 or 90. And let's see how we can achieve that. Okay, now let's jump into the next page, which is actually the detail of 189 visa. Now, if you cannot find this, it's the best way that you just Google it. You Google Home Affairs in the one word and space 189, and you should be able to find yourself here. Make sure you're landing at the points tested stream rather than New Zealand stream, because that's solely for New Zealanders. Okay, I'm not too sure why the cursor is working like that. Anyway, okay, now looking into the eligibility. Now before that, let's go on a little bit of overview of what this visa is all about. Now, as you can see, it's a straight permanent residency here. Okay, so there's no requirement for you to actually live, work, achieve 3 years, certain numbers of the employment required to be achieved, a certain number of salary level required to be achieved. So this gets you straight into permanent residency. That's the beauty of it. Now, bear in mind, at the moment, the processing time is quite long. It's about 12 to 18 months. And as you can see that you can work, study, you can do whatever. You become a permanent resident of Australia. Anyway, now you must have a skill in that skill occupation list. That's the first page that I show you. So you need to make sure that your occupation is at the 189 skill occupation list. Now you need to also have a suitable skill assessment. So let's jump into the first page that I've shown you. Okay, for example, this accountant. Okay, at the right hand side of this page, this column, you actually see assessing authority. So they have 3 skill assessing authority you can actually access with to actually get your accountant's background or skill or experience to be assessed. Now make sure your assessment has to be positive. Obviously, if you have a negative skill assessment, yes, you have done your skill assessment, but it's a negative, that won't get you anywhere. Now the third point is that you need to be invited by who? Invited by the Department of Immigration, Department of Home Affairs, so the federal government themselves. Rather than having it to go through nomination to the state, you need to get invited by the state, go through by the state, approved by the state, and then invited by the Department of Immigration again. 189, beautiful thing is you get invited straight from the Department of Home Affairs. And the last but not the least, satisfying the point test. Now that's the last thing that I don't want to go through. So how can you achieve 80 to 90 points so you actually get that points invited and qualified? Now obviously we know that since 2020, a dramatic drama going on all around the world, why everybody's talking about vaccination and things like that. I'll recommend a strategy. Now the strategy is pretty simple. The strategy is that you need to be inside of Australia to be actually access to an easier points required. So a lot of people had left queries on skill migration, general skill migration about offshore. Now, the bad side of offshore is obviously you won't be preferred if they are same category person with same skill, same experience, and same language level as you, but that guy is actually in Australia. So the government will have it's a no-brainer. The government will invite that person who is in Australia. So the strategy here, first strategy is make sure you're in Australia. Now, anyway, that won't be able to be controlled by anyone at the moment because all the international travel restriction has been going on anyhow. Okay, let's jump back to the legibility. So now, first of all, you need to be invited. Now, let me just make this page a little bit readable. Here we go. And you need to get a suitable skill assessment. So you click in here, you go into skill assessment, and they'll tell you you need to have a copy of the skill assessment application, and it has to be done. Validity of your skill assessment result is 3 years. Okay, and you need to be age under 45. So again, that's another. A lot of people come to me and say, look, I'm age of 50, I'm the expert on this and that, and I got all the experiences. Now I'm sorry you cannot access to this type of visa, but obviously you may consider to check out GTI maybe. Okay, anyhow, points required minimum is 65. Now remember, we went on the invitation round, the points required was 65, and that's lowest level ever. Now I will say, if you really want to get into 189 visa, you need to have at least 80, because 65 at this point in time is because there's no competition because of the pandemic. But once that's over, everybody can start flying, getting back to Australia. Now I'll assume that the point required has to be 80 above, so about 80 to 90. So we're gonna get into there and teach you how to actually get there. Okay, now level of English requirements. Now you're required to have at least competent English. Now competent English is basically at the level of IELTS 6 across 4 bands, but having solely IELTS 6 will not get you anywhere. I'll show you. You need to get that English punched and get to the high points, and again you need to get the skill requirement. That's a skill assessment, and you pass the health and character, so you haven't killed anyone and you're healthy. Okay, now getting to the main nitty-gritty of this video. Now bear in mind, what we're going to go through might be a little bit hard for somebody, but again, this is a cheat sheet from what I can see, because as long as you can meet these requirements, you'll be able to get there. Okay, so again, we're going back to about 80 to 90 points, right? So if you're an age, I would assume a lot of people will land yourself around the age of 25 to 40. So you at least have 25 points and to 30 points there. So now that cannot be altered. You cannot do anything to actually achieve better, because you cannot grow younger, or you cannot grow the other way around. Okay, anyway, you will grow older anyhow. Okay, now English language. Now this is one of the main thing, I think, as a skilled migrant, and if you want to live permanently in Australia, you should be able to get yourself a proficient English. That's IELTS 7, so that at least you get 10 points. Or perhaps you get into superior English, that's IELTS 8. Now, a lot of people come to me and say, oh, that's not possible. But I've seen so many people actually achieve this for the past 2 to 5 years. So it's achievable. If it's achievable, why don't you get it done? Unless you're really unable to get this, then you might consider the other way, for example 190 or 491. But for 189, I would strongly suggest that you're really required to get your superior English level, unless your occupation is not even in the list, and that's another thing. Then you need to you need to go to 190. So 189, I'll really recommend that you get IELTS 8. So if you got age between 25 to 33, that's 30 points, and then you get IELTS 8 Superior English, you already got 50 points. Now, we're aiming at 80 to 90, so we got 30 to 40 short. So let's have a look what else is out there. Now, overseas employment, that's outside of Australia. I would say this is actually very hard because if you have been overseas working for 5 to 8 years, you get that 10 points. You probably won't land yourself at the age of between, you probably, minimum get you 30 to 40, but I'll say it's gonna be hard. So I'll look at Australian employment here. So you get at least 1 to 3 years, you get 5 points. 3 years, you get 10 points. Okay, and obviously you can move out of Australia and continue to work in your occupation in other countries. But then again, the experiences also attracts your age to be older. So the more of you work, obviously your age points is gonna be getting less. Okay, now education qualification, that's something that it's achievable. It's achievable here. So you at least study in Australia at least 2 years, and you achieve bachelor above or perhaps master. Okay, so you get that 15 points plus the 2 years of study in Australia. You will get that 20 points mark. So remember, we only need about 30 to 40 more because we got IELTS 8 and we got the age of between 25 to 33. So if we get that 20 done, there's only 10 to 20 points left. Now these 10 to 20 points left, you might want to consider something. So remember, when we go through, we did not go through the work experiences part, but if you have been studying in those specialist education qualifications, for example, that has to be a master by research or a doctoral degree. Okay, you get that 10 points, and these are predominantly all the science. So you can see the science, IT, engineering, and you'll be able to get there. I don't think this is a hard part for an upcoming international student or in upcoming skilled migrants, because it's achievable. So if you get bachelor done, and obviously you need to achieve good academically to actually get yourself into master by research, and you get additional 2 years of master by research in these field of science, IT, and engineering, you're already there. And once you get to master by research, some states do have nomination points there too. So that's a no-brainer again. Okay, now moving down, there is a professional year. Now that's open only for accountants, engineer, and IT. That is required for once you graduated, you enter into a professional year. All the other occupation won't have a professional year. I'll strongly suggest you get it done as well, because it's achievable. It's not that hard. You don't have to sit there on a year, and you get that extra 5 points. And you get a full skill assessment after that. So I see no point not to achieve that at all. And finally, we're moving into credential community language. Now, since they have put CCL, credential community language, requirement there, and they lower the requirement, rather become an interpreter or translator, a lot of people will actually achieve this. And all you need to do is click in this link and go into the NATI website and get your test done. So as long as you can translate from your first language to English, or translate from English to your first language, I see no point you're not getting this, especially if you already achieve IELTS 8. If you get IELTS 8, I see no point that you cannot get your CCL 5 points there. Okay, studying regionally is another thing. A lot of people have chosen that. So rather than going to the big city like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane CBD, all the other cities, all the other regions are counted as regional Australia. So you can go to Gold Coast, you can go to Adelaide, you can go to Hobart, you can go to, Darwin, Cairns, Townsville, Perth, all these beautiful cities there. If you study there, you get that 5 points there. So from what we can see here, you within all this, you probably already got about 85 points. Now, partner skills. Now, the beauty of partner skill is at the bottom here. As long as you stay single, oh gosh, Don't go there find girlfriend and boyfriend. As long as you stay single, you get that 10 points. Wow. I see no point that you cannot get 90 points here. Or perhaps your partner is Australian citizen or permanent resident. That's another thing to go. But rather than that, if you have if your partners are not Australians or permanent resident of Australia, then you miss out that 10 points. But if you want to get that 10 points, but make sure that she also passes all these requirements, which it's another story there. So coming back here, as long as you now what I've been taught from the beginning until now, I haven't even talked about work experiences, remember? So if you got age there and you achieve your IELTS, and then you pick the right the qualifications in IT, science or engineering, and get into master by research, I see no points that you won't get there. So it's I think it's a no-brainer, and that's why I'm calling that this video is all about how you can actually break the cipher of 189 visa. Again, a lot of people do come back and say, oh gee, these are too hard, how am I going to achieve these points and scores? Again, there are other options there. Now in this video is more specific on the subclass 189, which obviously is the best visa because you get that permanent residency straight away. However, ensure that you want to get all these benefits, you're required to be onshore at this point of time. But if you're offshore or they open offshore in the future, that's all you're required to do. Now, even if you cannot achieve them, they are still 190 and 491. So I see no point. People are struggling out there. Skill migration is still a way to go, and I believe post-pandemic era, a skill migrant, as a lot of news article and the Minister of Immigration and the other politicians, high-ranked politician in Australia, has all coined that a high immigration is the way to go to actually get the economy of Australia back. Anyway, what is your thought? Do you think you can actually break the cipher of 189 visa, or perhaps you may need to lower it a little bit down? Or do you think they should lower the requirement so that you can actually achieve easier, or perhaps open up with more quota for skilled migrants? What is your thought? Leave your comment right down below, and I'll see you for the next video. Goodbye.